We have added another Jeep to the collection, arguably one of the best ones ever.
We got a 1997 Jeep Cherokee, and of course, like all of the others, it's red.
So we've been looking for quite a while to find a clean, affordable Jeep Cherokee, and that's been a lot harder than you would think. But finally, we found this one about 45 minutes away for a pretty good price. So we grabbed it about 2 weeks ago, and here we are.
We both have sweet spots for Cherokees. We had one of these about 10 years ago. We then also brought our kids home in a Cherokee, and it was also our daily driver for a really long time.
It was the first Jeep that we bought together. We got a Cherokee up in Kodiak. Some of you who have been here with the channel from the beginning might have remembered it. It was also red. But I have a sweet spot for these things because it was my first vehicle ever. It was a 1993 Jeep Cherokee. Bought it in high school, and that's really what started my entire passion for off-roading and Jeeps, was that Cherokee way back in the day. Had a lot of fun with it, and it's kind of the reason I'm into all of this stuff. So figured it was time for another Cherokee build. They're great daily drivers, and they're really fun. So let's check this thing out. So like Cassie said, this is a 1997 Jeep Cherokee. It's a one owner, which is fantastic. We know everything's been taken care of, and it looks like it's in really good shape. So the 97s and 98s are arguably some of the best Cherokees you can get. You get the updated front end, the nice updated interior, and the 97 and 98 models don't have any known engine issues like the 2000s that have some of the cracked head issues. But overall, the 97 and 98 are the models to get when it comes to Cherokees. So we have the 4.0 inline six, the automatic AW4 trans, the high pinion Dana 30, MP231 transfer case, and the Chrysler 8.25 rear end. So all the bells and whistles, all the good stuff that Cherokees have to offer, this 97 has it.
And this one has, what, 262,000 miles on it. It's all stock, and it's been pretty well maintained. Like Ben said, it's been one owner. And even though it's really high mileage, this thing is in really good shape.
The outside, the inside, and it drives. Like the engine sounds healthy. A lot of people get scared when it comes to high mileage vehicles, but stuff, the Cherokees and TJs, if they are treated well, they can just last forever. So. And
this one even has the factory radio, and it still works, which I think is pretty impressive. And the interior is in such good shape.
Yep. Look at this thing. It is beautiful. There's no tears in the seats. The carpets are nice and clean. This is just a fantastic Jeep. So the guy we bought it from, it was his family vehicle. He bought it new, and one owner, he just took really good care of it, didn't abuse it. They passed it down to his son at some point, and it was his daily driver when he was in college. So super clean inside. The headliner is still there, it's not sagging, and I was surprised to see that. Now there are a few dents and dings and some things on the body that I would like to take care of. You know, he backed into a pole at some point here. Some of the clear coat is some of the clear coat's fading.
Yeah,
especially over here on the passenger side. Now when we went to look at this, there was only pictures of the front and the driver's side. So when I got there, I was a little bit concerned when I saw this, and I was like, that's probably why he didn't include pictures. But for the price, it was a really good deal. So Cassie's been wanting to paint, and almost half of our vehicles, the clear coat's painting.
Coming off,
so.
and I keep saying I want to learn to paint, but I just haven't done it yet, but it's coming. It's gonna be one of those things we try very soon.
Cassie's gonna give all the rigs paint jobs, so. Rear cargo area, just super clean. As you can tell, fantastic platform.
It has so much potential.
So even though this thing is in really good shape, there are a few issues that hopefully we'll knock out in this first video.
So right off the bat, the AC does not work.
And that is a big issue because it's like 100 degrees here in Oklahoma, and it's summertime.
In the shop.
So in order to really even drive this thing and enjoy it, we're gonna have to fix the AC. Second, there is a pretty loud clunk coming from underneath. Really, anytime you hit a bump, and especially whenever you hit the brakes, there's a clunk back and forth. So we have to fix that. And finally, it has the dreaded shimmy, not full death wobble, but once you get up above 45, there is a pretty big shimmy in the steering. So all three of those definitely relate to drivability. So those are some of
on the daily.
Oh yeah, so some of the first things we're gonna have to knock out are those three items. But what is the goal for this thing? What are we actually going to be doing with it? I tend to get a little bit out of hand when it comes to Jeep builds.
Just a little.
So I need all of you guys to kind of keep me in check in the comments. Once I start taking this thing too far, let me know. But the plans for this is to make it a daily driver,
yes,
but still be a fun build that if we want to go take it wheeling on the weekends, we still can.
But with all the modifications Ben might end up doing, I still want to make sure that I can take the kids to school in it, go get groceries, and all those typical daily things, because I love daily driving a Jeep Cherokee. The visibility in these things is insane. I've always loved it ever since we got it 10 years ago, and I kind of want to be able to replicate that again.
And these things, they're great platforms because you can still daily drive them with a few smart modifications, and you can still go hit the trails and really do everything you want it to do.
Yes.
The issue is that you have to do it smartly, and sometimes, you know, people get carried away, such as me. But a Cherokee on 33s with a small lift, possibly re-geared, these things are just really fantastic to drive, as long as we get the AC working.
So let's start on that.
We're gonna start on that. And of course, it is going to be semi-budget friendly, because that's the great thing about these, is you can have a fantastic build for less than 10,000 in total.
That is the goal, is 10,000.
10,000, no more, you know, including the price of the Jeep. Will this Cherokee build turn out the way we think?
I think it'll turn out better.
Okay, well, let's get started taking a look at the AC. So I've actually already found out what the issue is in regards to the AC system, but I want to walk you guys through the steps on how to troubleshoot your own AC system in a car, because there are so many old Jeeps out there that you either spend a ton of money trying to get the AC fixed, or can't figure it out, so people just say screw it, when in reality it could be something very simple. And AC systems, they sound complex, but they're not too hard. So the previous owner had taken this to 3 different AC shops and they couldn't figure it out. They were throwing parts at it. There's a new compressor, new AC lines, pretty much everything was replaced with the exception of the evaporator on the inside. And at that point, he'd put so much money into it, he just said, screw it, no AC. There's a few sides to AC systems. Of course, there's the actual refrigerant side and how it works, refrigerant side, but there's also the control circuits and the power circuits to it. So if your AC stops working, the first thing we're going to check is to make sure there's actual refrigerant in there. So in our case, as you can tell, there is refrigerant in the system. If you try to run your AC system and it's low on refrigerant, it's not going to work. That's part of the control circuit. So I printed out a few wiring diagrams to see how this actually works. So on the Cherokee, the computer is going to put out voltage. It goes to our high pressure switch, then our low pressure switch, and then it tees off right here. It tees off down to our computer AC select input, and then it also goes up through our selector switch, which is inside on the dash, what actually controls the AC, and then it goes to ground. So a lot of people don't realize that your controls are a ground switch. So the computer is sending out voltage coming from our computer, going up to our high pressure switch, which is normally closed. If there's a spike or high pressure in the AC system, it opens, which means no voltage is going to continue through. Your AC is not going to work. It goes from this switch over to the low pressure switch. If you have low refrigerant pressure, that switch is going to open, electricity won't go through, it's not going to work. From here is the green wire where it tees off back to the computer. It also goes through to the selector switch to turn on the AC. So the first 2 things naturally to check are going to be your pressure switches. And those are very easy to check. You can actually pull these plugs, put a jumper in there, which means stick a wire in there to bypass the switch. But we can also check that with a multimeter.
Cue me handing him a multimeter.
So we're gonna set our multimeter to the ohms symbol. All we're going to do is put 1 lead on one side of the switch and 1 lead on the other. And we are reading 0.3 ohms, which means that switch is doing what it's supposed to do. It's sending power through it. So if you've never messed with a multimeter, when you're on ohms, if it's touching and there is a path, you'll get a low number. If there's not a path, you'll get OL or a super high number. So then we break out the schematic and start seeing where we're losing power or what's going on. So we know that it comes out of the PCM or the computer, goes through our high pressure switches, and then tees back to the computer. So we're gonna make sure the computer's actually putting out voltage at the low pressure switch, which is the light and green and dark blue and pink wire. Unplug this, set it to DC volts, and it's not going to go through the green wire here because it's not going through the switch, but we can actually put 1 lead here, 1 on the ground. Cassie is going to turn the ignition on. from this point, we have power going to here, which is also going to feed back to our computer. We need to make sure that the selector switch is working. So what we can do is now test the light green wire to ground. So we're gonna switch back to ohms. So right now it's OL, which means it's not a complete circuit. So Cassie's going to turn it to run, but then you're also gonna turn the AC on and off through the selector switch. Okay, turn AC off. Turn AC on. So that is showing us that our control circuit is working, but we're checking that with ohms because there's no power, that's just a ground circuit. So we know our control circuit's good, it's time to move on to the actual power circuit. So the first thing we can check with the ignition on, everything set to AC, is to see if we're even receiving power to our AC clutch. It's a single wire that goes to your AC compressor, and we can see that we are not getting any voltage to it. If we were getting power to the clutch and it's not engaging, that means you just replace the clutch. We're gonna come over here to our AC clutch relay, pop the relay, and make sure everything's good there. One side of the relay should always be hot, then in our case, we have 12 volts there. Now the two sides over here are what actually control the relay. So we know that the relay has power going to it, but the control circuit for the relay isn't working. So on most modern vehicles, and I guess we're gonna consider this modern, the relay is actually activated with the ground. So the positive is always gonna be on the control side of the relay. It's just not gonna pass through until the computer grounds it out. So we can actually check that. Once again, with the ignition on, everything set to AC, we can check and see if our relay is grounding. In our case, it is not. So, what that means is either the wire from here to the computer is broken, or our computer internally is not grounding the circuit out when needed. Another thing that wasn't working, or was working too much, is the electric fan was running all the time with the key on. And that's something else that is controlled by ground through the computer. So if we pop this relay back in, even without,
Ooh, that scared me.
even without the Jeep up to temp or the AC being commanded on, the electric fan was running 24/7. And in that case, the computer was actually shorted out and causing the ground to always be active, thus turning on the relay. All of that summed up means the computer is bad, not only for the AC, but also for the electric fan. Now the crazy thing is that the previous owner at some point put in a new computer. The issue is that he did not put in a Wrangler fix computer. I've mentioned this before in the past, but when it comes to computers for these Jeeps, it's a crapshoot. If you order from Cardone, Flagship One, any of those PCM replacement websites, half of them just don't work out of the box, and you never know if that was the original issue. Wrangler Fix, these guys are known when it comes to any kind of Jeep computer. These are the only ones that I would recommend, so you don't end up in situations like this where you're spending $3,000 trying to fix something when one of the parts that you put in was indeed bad. So, all we have to do is unbolt this computer, put the new one in, and that fixed two problems right there. Yep. Looks fine, but it's just trash. And with the computer being the only thing changed, it's time to fire it up and see if it solves our issues, which, hint, it does, because when I got the computer, I just tested it real quick, but fire it up. There we go. AC clutch just kicked in, and hopefully you could hear when we first turned the key on, the fan wasn't running.
Nice and cold in here.
Yeah? Beautiful.
Yep. All right, now we can actually take it for a test drive because we'll be sweating the entire time and figure out where the clunking sound underneath is coming from, and maybe even a little bit of the shimmy in the steering wheel.
So, let's go hit the road. So first test drive in the Cherokee, and we have the whole crew. Cassie's here, and the kids were excited to tag along too. They're excited about this Jeep. Do y'all remember the old red Cherokee that we had?
Yeah, Dad, we were baby
You were babies, so they probably don't remember. Ellie says she remembers, but this is the first real test drive in this thing. When I went to go buy it, took it around the block at his house, got it up to like 45 and noticed a small shimmy, and then we trailered it home, so we haven't driven it since. But the AC is working, not ice cold, so we probably will have to check the refrigerant level, make sure everything's good. But other than that, it's actually driving pretty smooth now. There's no shimmies, nothing bad.
No,
There is
nice.
the clunk. So once we were up here at a stop sign or a bumpy road, there's a major clunk, both side to side and forward and back. So it's probably, you know, track bar, something in the steering. Alignment is a little bit off, but it drives really good. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's good.
You think is it a smooth ride?
Yeah, me too.
We love it.
Mama, we love it.
I love
You
it.
can even see out of the windows better.
Oh yeah, you can, there's full visibility. Here we go, we're going over some bumps.
I can hear it like a little bit, but I don't know if you can through the
It almost
camera.
sounds like it's coming from your side too. So there's definitely a clunk. The camera's not picking it up, of course.
Shock, control arm, nose, track bar action.
Nose. So far, this thing actually drives pretty good. So let's throw it up on the lift and see what we can find. We're gonna have to rip this little air dam off because it's just flapping around there on the axle. It looks like we are gonna have to change the oil pan gasket. We got a nice few leaks up under there. And I noticed that there was some custom exhaust manifold work. It looks like there's some stainless steel tubes welded up to the original cast manifold. And from here, it looks like I see like 2 or 3 cracks in it. So that might have to get swapped out. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. So let's rip this shield out. I'm curious to see what's going on with the exhaust up there. Oh, that was pretty easy. Wasn't really doing much of anything. Sorry we haven't done really anything fun in this video yet, but really just wanted to cover the AC troubleshooting because that's something a lot of people don't talk about outside of just, you know, oh, you got an AC leak or something. The electrical side of it really doesn't get discussed too often. Custom exhaust fab work that we got going on here. Stepped it down here. And oh wow, look at that. That is definitely affecting performance a little bit. Either that was put there or the drive shaft ended up putting it there for clearance reasons. Take a look at this crack that I'm seeing. I'm seeing a crack right there. Possibly there. And from underneath, there was one way up there. Drive shaft still feels nice and tight. Looks like we do have a set of aftermarket adjustable control arms. Both upper and lower. I bet you this is what's causing the clunk. These joints are probably shot. But we'll check that here in a bit. Rust-free for the most part, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. So most of the clunking sounded like it was coming from up front and the passenger side. The shocks actually feel fine, so it's not those. But these bushings look like they have seen better days. They haven't been greased in a while. So to check those, we just get a pry bar. Oh yeah, they're shot. And that's just putting a little bit of pressure. That would definitely contribute to the clunking. So the last thing to do is to check the steering, but for that, the easiest way to do it is on the ground. So Cassie's in there, and she's just gonna wiggle the steering wheel back and forth. Tie rod end on the pitman arm definitely looks like it could use some love, so we'll probably change that out. And it definitely does look like our track bar end is bad. So for that one, we gotta replace the whole track bar because that's not a replaceable joint on this side. So it doesn't look like there's anything major, but I think a new track bar, a new tie rod end, and definitely a set of control arms. And this thing will be driving good. When this was up on the lift, the control arm on your side, that joint was completely shot. So that's what you were feeling up there. And then some of the steering components and track bar. Probably why I felt that original wobble, and it just didn't happen on our test drive. We have quite a few parts to get on order, and start wrenching in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Like always, give the video a thumbs up. Go down to the comments and let me know if you have any specific video requests for this beautiful Cherokee. And in the meantime, we're gonna start ordering parts and start planning out this build. Thanks for watching.